Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel Dentistry Made Easy. The topic for today is path of insertion from removal partial dentures. Now in the video of surveying, I have said the purpose, like the objective of doing surveying is to determine the path of insertion. So what exactly is path of insertion? I'm going to explain in this video. According to the definition, it says it is the direction in which a prosthesis is placed upon and removed from the abutment teeth. So this is like basically how you're going to place and remove the prosthesis from the abutment teeth. Now this is the removal partial dentures. So we are taking support from the abutments. So these are the abutments which are the natural present teeth. So we are taking support from them. So basically how you're going to remove and place the prosthesis, it depends on this path of insertion. So it is the angle which is made by the direction of the RPD, that is removal partial dentures, with the remaining teeth during insertion. So basically it is the angle which is formed at the time of removal and insertion when you're actually removing or inserting it with the help of these abutments. And a simple method to establish an ideal path of insertion, it is to alter the tilt or angulation of the cast on the surveyor. So we have seen, like, while we are doing surveying, we can tilt the cast. So basically it is nothing but to determine proper path of insertion. So the method by which you can establish ideal path of insertion is to alter the tilt or angulation of the cast on the surveyor. Changing the tilt will change the guiding plane and the amount of mouth opening needed to sit a denture. And we have seen it should not be more than 10 degrees. Like the tilt, it should not be more than 10 degrees, because what happens is it will lead to excessive mouth opening during insertion, which we don't want. So this is path of insertion. So in this diagram, as you can see, now your abutments, they are parallel. So when the abutments, they are vertically upright, parallel to each other, they produce less hindrance to the prosthesis. So it becomes like less hindered to the prosthesis to place it or to remove it. But now when your abutments, they are tilted, so now you can see they are not parallel. So what it will cause, that it will cause interference while you are placing or removing your prosthesis. So your path of insertion is basically nothing but how you are going to place and remove the abutment, how you are going to place and remove the prosthesis from the abutment teeth. So what is the clinical consideration of this path of insertion? So first is there are multiple path of insertion which is possible in class 1 case. So class 1 case is class 1 Kennedy's class 1 is nothing but when it is bilateral edentulous space which is present posterior to the remaining natural teeth. So this is your class 1 where the edentulous space, it is present posteriorly and it is bilaterally. So in class 1 where you can see there are multiple path of insertion, but the main objective is we should have a single path of insertion, and a single path of insertion, it is like obtained by preparing additional guiding planes on the lingual surface of the remaining teeth. So what is guiding planes? Guiding planes is nothing but two or more vertically parallel surfaces of the abutment teeth so oriented as to direct the path of placement and removal of the removal partial dentures. So basically it is nothing but two or more vertically parallel surfaces of the abutment teeth which are created on the proximal surfaces. So these, the red ones, they are the guiding planes. So what we can do is, now as we know, in class 1 there are multiple paths of insertion. So by preparing these guiding planes on the proximal teeth, two parallel lines, so we can have a single path of insertion for class 1 also. And in class 2 case with modification 1. So if it is class 2 is unilateral edentulous space which is present posteriorly. But it is with modification 1, so there is one more edentulous space which is present and it has single path of insertion. Class 3 and class 4, it also has single path of insertion. Class 3 is when the edentulous space is present between two abutments, and class 4 is the edentulous space is present anterior to the remaining natural teeth. So all this, they have a single path of insertion. So the guide planes, they are prepared on the proximal surface. Now you can see over here. So they are prepared on the proximal surface of the abutment teeth. They guide the denture during the insertion only along the path of insertion, and they prevent the placement of the denture along any other direction. So it will help. So this guiding plane, so you're guiding the prosthesis to be placed in proper position. So this is like in this Kennedy's class 2 with modification space. So this is Kennedy's class 2 and there is this modification space. the guiding plane in the modification space, it determines the path of insertion. And in Kennedy's class 3, the guiding planes of the primary abutment teeth, they determine the path of insertion. So as you know, in class 3, we have two abutments which are present on the either side. So they are going to determine the path of insertion. So this is the clinical consideration of it. Now, what are the factors which are influencing it? So there are 7 factors. First is retentive undercuts, interference, aesthetics, guiding planes, denture base, location of the vertical minor connector, and point of origin of the approach arm. First is retentive undercuts. So the first is when the cast is placed horizontally, so favorable undercuts on the abutment teeth, they should be identified to operate good retention. So main, like the basis of your prosthesis, it should have good retention. So as we know, there are favorable and unfavorable undercuts. So our main basic aim is that we should aim on favorable undercuts. So when the cast is placed horizontally, so your favorable undercuts, they should be identified so as to obtain good retention. So now your cast, now if you do not find favorable undercuts, so they are tilted until the height of contour. So the cast, it can be tilted until the height of contour, and your cast, it should lie between the gingival and the middle third of the crown. So your crown, it is divided into 3 portions. So first is occlusal, second is middle, and third is gingival. So your height of contour is this. The bulky area of your tooth is your height of contour. So the cast, it should be tilted until the height of contour. It is between the gingival and the middle third. So it should not be like this. So this height of contour, this line is lying more towards the occlusal. So it should not happen. It should be like this. It should be between the gingival and the middle third of the crown. So what are the advantages of having this height of contour between the gingival and middle third of the crown? So first is aesthetic. Obviously, now if you will place your clasp more on the occlusal surface, it will be like it can be seen in patient's mouth easily. So it is not aesthetically pleasing. So the first reason is the aesthetics. So it is the aesthetic placement of the clasp. Second is it reduces the rotational forces. The third is it reduces the forces which are transferred to the abutment. Tilting of the cast would alter the path of insertion. So these are the 3 advantages. The first one is aesthetics, second is it reduces the rotational forces, and third is it reduces the forces which are transmitted to the abutment. The second factor is interference. So interference is like certain areas of the mouth, they can cause interference to insertion. So now it is like if surgery cannot be done to remove these interferences, the path of insertion should be altered. A few examples of interference can be in mandible, there can be lingual tori, lingual inclination. So your teeth, they are lingually inclined. Then bony exostosis. In maxilla again, tori, then bony exostosis, and the buccally tipped teeth. So these can be your interferences, which can which can affect the path of insertion. So now in this diagram, as I have said, the height of contour. So in this diagram, the height of contour, it is at the middle third of the crown. Now here, it is between the gingival and the middle third of the crown. And about the advantages I have talked. So the next is aesthetics. Now aesthetics is nothing but it is the pleasure feeling which is obtained due to the visual perception of an object. So basically, whatever we are doing, it should be aesthetically pleasant. So when we are doing complete dentures or FPD or RPD, it should be aesthetics. So we are focusing more on aesthetics. So aesthetic is nothing but the pleasure feeling which is obtained due to the visual perception of an object. To obtain an optimum aesthetics, the following procedures can be done. So now to obtain proper aesthetics, so the procedures which can be done are, the first is the clasp arm, it should be concealed. So positioning the clasp arm at the lower level. So now as we have seen in that one also, the last one, that was their retentive undercuts. So it is like your clasp arm, it should be positioned at lower level. The cast, it should be tilted so that the height of contour, as we have seen in this, the height of contour, it should be between the gingival and the middle third of the crown. And this will alter the path of insertion. The second one is a balance. Balance should be obtained between aesthetics and function. There should be a balance between aesthetics. It's not like you're just focusing on aesthetics and the function of prosthesis is not fulfilled. So it should be like the balance, it should be maintained. The third is artificial teeth, it should be placed in the same position as that of the natural teeth, obviously. It should not be like you should not place your teeth in any position. It should be like your natural teeth. The artificial teeth should be placed in the same position as that of your natural teeth. Then in some Kennedy's class 4, so there is like in Kennedy's class 4 where the length of the edentulous span is decreased. It can be decreased due to various reasons, like it can be due to mesial migration, or there can be inclination of the remaining teeth. So what can be done is guide planes, they are prepared on the proximal surfaces. So in this cases, guide planes are prepared. So we have seen what guide planes, those they are nothing but vertically parallel surfaces on the abutments. And the next is the cases where there is mesially tilted abutments on the either side of the edentulous space will have large anesthetic undercuts, which will lead to accumulation of plaque and debris. So this can be eliminated either by tilting the cast posteriorly, or by altering the path of insertion, or by selective grinding the teeth, and thereby we are eliminating the undercuts. So it's like in some cases your abutments, they are mesially tilted, so this will create anesthetic undercuts, and that will lead to accumulation of plaque and debris. So what we can do is we can eliminate them by tilting the cast. So now in this there is this abutment which is tipped with an unfavorable undercuts. So as it is tipped, so it will lead to unfavorable undercuts. So what can we do is we can do enameloplasty to like eliminate this undercuts, or we can do is the proximal surface of such teeth, it can be recontoured using a crown. So these are the procedures that you can do to get a proper aesthetics. The next is the guiding planes. So guiding planes, the path of insertion will always be parallel to the guide planes. In other words, the guiding plane, it determines the path of insertion. The proximal plate on the partial denture should and will contact the guide planes during insertion. Hence, when many guide planes are used, multiple path of insertions are avoided. So basically, we are avoiding multiple path of insertion by giving this guiding planes. As we have seen in class 1, there are multiple path of insertion. But by giving this guiding planes, we can get that single path of insertion. So it is like this. Since the proximal plate of the dentures, they are forced to slide over the guide planes during insertion, multiple guiding planes should be prepared parallel to one another in order to avoid multiple path of insertion. If guiding planes, they are prepared on the either side of the saddle, all unwanted path of insertions. So it's like when you're preparing this guiding plane on the either side of your abutment, so multiple path of insertion can be avoided. So this is the guiding plane that can affect, like that can influence the path of insertion. The next is your denture base. Denture base is when the shape and the size of the denture base, it determines the path of insertion. So the denture base is this, where you're going to place your artificial teeth. So the size and the extent of this denture base, it will determine the path of insertion. If a distal extension denture base is made to extend anteriorly on both sides, it tends to embrace the abutment, limiting multiple path of insertion. Now the problem with this, so this is a distal extension case. So basically distal extension case is nothing but Kennedy's class 1 and class 2, where it is tissue supported and tooth supported. So it is tooth supported on one side and tissue supported on one side, as there is no teeth which is present posteriorly. So this is a distal extension case. So what you can do mostly in distal extension case, as we have seen in class 1, there was multiple path of insertion. So what we can do is in distal extension case, we can extend the buccal flange of the denture base. So here, as you can see, we can extend this anteriorly, which will limit multiple path of insertion. So this is the denture base, and these are your guide planes, as I said. And this will, so your guide planes, when you're preparing these guide planes, it will help the denture to be placed properly. So it will determine this path of insertion properly. So the guide plane functions to guide the placement of the denture only along the path of insertion. So it will like guide it properly. The next is the location of the vertical minor connector. So what is minor connector? Minor connector is nothing but basically it is the connector which joins the major connector to other components of your RPT. So as we have seen, this is a direct retainer. So these are the parts of your class. So this is your minor connector, and this is the rest. So the vertical minor connector, it connects the rest to the major connector. So now this minor connector over here, it will go and connect to the major connector. So your minor connector, it is connecting this rest and major connector, and your minor connector, it should be parallel to the guide plane. So this is your, if this is your vertical minor connector, so it should be parallel to your guide plane. So you have prepared your guide planes over here, and it should be parallel to it. So the vertical minor connector connecting the auxiliary rest, they also lie close to the prepared guide planes. Hence, they also aid to limit the multiple path of insertion. And the next, that is the last one, is the last factor is point of origin of the approach arm of the bar clasp. So about this bar clasp, I have covered everything about it in the video of direct retainers. The approach arm of the clasp, it descends down. So over here, as you can see, your approach arm, it is arising from the minor connector. So it is arising from the denture base. So this is your denture base. So it is arising from the denture base minor connector, and it descends down and it loops to end in a T-shaped tip. That is your retentive terminal. And because of this, as it is looping, so it is capable of producing interference. Actually, the bar clasp, it should be designed to produce least resistance according to the path of insertion. But in some cases, what happens is your approach arm, it cannot be modified. So what we can do is the path of insertion can be altered in such cases. So when the path of insertion, when we are changing the path of insertion, the resulting bar clasp will not provide resistance to removal. So it will not provide retention. We will be changing the path of insertion. So it will not provide retention in vertical direction. Instead, it will provide resistance to removal only against the path of insertion. So this was the point of origin of the approach arm. So over here, as you can see, so the bar clasp, it should be placed, it cannot be placed against the soft tissue undercuts, and altering the path of placement of the denture, it may avoid soft tissue interference without compromising retention. So this was the factors which affect the path of insertion. And this was it of this video. Thank you so much.